So I think it's a combination of pipeline. So how are we attracting Black professionals into this industry? It's an industry that I can say personally, growing up, I didn't know much about. It's an industry that a lot of people don't know the different roles that are in the industry or find a pathway to get into that. Also entry level. So at universities, again, a lot of the investment managers and asset managers in this industry are not necessarily well known to students. So we see that a lot of the big banks might attract some of the names, or other professions, and financial services might be limited to those studying specifically economics or finance specific degrees. And then we have progression as well. So this is why I think is one of the barriers that we see in terms of not having that representation at senior management level. And it's just that we all have the majority of Black professionals that are in the lower end of the scale, but not having that progression through to business unit heads or senior management and the exco committees.
There are issues around retention and around promotion, around, recognizing Black talent and recognizing that someone may be ready for the next step. Recognizing the differences that even though you may not fit into the existing mold, but that's not a bad thing. Other people sometimes may be promoted on potential, whereas, and that's just one example, I think it's harder for ethnic minorities to be promoted on potential. You have to be proving yourself, and it's difficult sometimes to get the opportunity to prove yourself.
We're saying, why is representation low in the industry? Yet we know 3 out of every 4 ethnic minorities don't feel comfortable in their first job. We know that the majority of 50 to 70-year-olds end up being in the poorest 20%, so they don't have role models. And there's just a lot of pervasive issues that kind of exist in that realm. So I think the lack of representation, the lack of awareness for the youth is one of those drivers for that. There's lack of representation simply because people aren't even aware that that's an option for them. When they look on the paper, when they look in movies, when they look on the TV, when they look at other individuals in their roles, they don't see other people who look like them or in these powerful positions.
The low numbers, I think it's changing, but it's been low because of one, racial discrimination, 2, just a factor as to the percentage and the actual overall number of Black people, not only just in the UK, but of the right age and at the right stage in their careers to explore and enter this world as well.
What attracted me to the industry was, one, because I feel like it's doing a social good. I still feel that. I feel that it's a good thing actually to be looking after people's retirements, especially as I feel like financial literacy in this country is so low. Lots of people don't know, enough about saving for retirement and enough about investing on their own. And also intellectually, I find the investment process, the investment products, just very, very interesting. So for those 2 reasons, I'm very attracted to the asset management industry.
When I was studying, financial services wasn't a profession that was presented in front of me, but my mother worked for a bank in Canary Wharf. So she worked for one of the big American banks, and she started off at data entry, worked her way up. But I remember going to see her after school at Canary Wharf and seeing all of the buildings and everyone in suits. So it was an aspiration for me, and it just symbolized success for me. So it was interesting that I was naturally curious about, just because I knew someone that worked in that industry.
I don't think I ever once thought about it like that. I always, I don't think I'm particularly good at anything or great at anything. I think what I'm good at and which happens to be good enough at is problem solving. And if it's investing, I think even going into the world of West investing, I never decided go and become an investor. I wanted to actively do that. It came to me. So when the US fund wanted to open here, they just reached out and said hey, spent some time with me and said ultimately, hey, we want you to be involved. Through a good friend of mine who also joined and helped bridge the gap here for them.
And what was apparent when I was back in university is technology was going to be the future. I decided to take a much more objective view by looking at the future trends and the salary expectations over any other criteria. So I think that's why representation didn't necessarily, wasn't a big driver for me, because at the end of the day, I said, if I get the right education, I can do anything I want. I don't care if anyone else before me's done it, I want to do it.
For me, the most inspiring moments have been when I've been able to mentor younger people. So I set up a couple of years ago, I'm a committee member of our ethnicity network. It's called the Culture Club. Mm-hmm. And a couple of years ago, we set up with our IT department a mentoring platform, setting up this platform to match more experienced staff to less experienced staff starting out. And for me, that was really empowering, just to see how much of a difference it makes for more junior people to have someone to talk to. You forget how much you know, and you forget how much experience you have and how much you can impart to more junior members of staff. So it's really interesting, and for me very rewarding to be able to do that.
So what empowers me is that it's just our culture progressing, us really getting our value in more, and just my ability to enable that to happen and play a part in that happening. So yeah.
There's been a recent shift in terms of senior executives in the industry, CEOs, COOs listing to Black employees, and especially senior Black employees in the industry. So I think it's really empowering that, we're actually being listened to, and they want to hear our experiences for how to attract more talent, how to progress more Black talent within organizations. So I think that's been empowering for me.
What would you do if someone asked you to join a conference call and said, don't let them know you're Black? Well, I would join that conference call and say, hello, this is Black Belton. Why? Because I am proud of my race, and I would never let anyone try to minimize that for me. Yet when it came to my orientation, I was allowing it. And I think what that enabled me to do was recognize the importance of being proud of who you are. The time I felt most empowered by being a Black leader is now, because I'm a director in a global management risk consultancy where I'm able to feel supported to use my voice to help other organizations amplify the voices of other ethnic minority and LGBT leaders out there. So I think the first thing is for organizations to really understand there's a difference. And diversity doesn't mean assimilation. Diversity means recognition and celebration of difference. I wholeheartedly believe that organizations have a desire to do the right thing. However, there's two issues. One is the planning fallacy. Anytime an organization says, here's what we want to do in the diversity sector, they always think that they could get these priorities achieved, but they don't. And that's just because they're not giving enough time to it. Now, the other term I'm going to throw out is the intent versus action gap. Everyone has true intentions. Everyone has good intentions. However, when it comes down to it, are the actions aligned to ensure that you achieve those intentions? And the answer becomes no. And so you can have really good intentions, but poor actions supporting those. So what we need to make sure happens is organizations document very clear structure to creating and responding to those actions.
I think training is a good start. It definitely is, and it raises the awareness, and it sends a clear signal that it's top of the agenda. But I think it needs to be ingrained in the culture of firms. So I think where we've got CEOs that are speaking out about this and really driving the tone from the top, I think that's really, really significant in terms of creating a culture of anti-racism. So we need to also hear the voices of colleagues internally, because so often training can seem very abstract or not relevant to the firm, but hearing from colleagues of these are my experiences within our organisation, I think is a powerful message to add on to the training.
I think there needs to be a bit more sacrifice on their part. If you've got a Black person in your team, when you see another fund hiring and even if it's for a more senior position, sacrifice that black person. You either do one or two things. Sacrifice a role in your company, maybe your seat or someone else's seat, for that black person to progress. Like, of course, by merit, because we're good and we're great. But I think that if we can grow, if we do better collectively, we all win. In organizations where they're doing racial training and stuff, I think it's just about sacrifice. I think people need to put their egos aside and just listen to them and just listen. Do a lot more listening to the diverse and to black people in their organizations.
We've had various things like candid conversations, ethnic minority staff actually talking in a very free way about the things that affect us day to day, and having a really open conversation where people can ask the sorts of questions they may not really want to have asked, you know, in another forum. Also recognizing that anti-racism isn't just white and black, it's also within the black community. So and also within different ethnic minorities, talking about the specific challenges that face black people compared to other ethnic minorities, talking about the necessity to disaggregate that BAME acronym, that, you know, not all ethnic minorities can be lumped under that one banner. So it's been a lot about conversation, actually, and I feel that's really helped in my firm, and those are things that I think other firms could adopt.